What's happening, hardscapers, and welcome to Concrete Porch Overlays. We are going to transform this bland concrete porch to a unique paver porch with natural stone caps. Let's get started. What you'll see with this overlay is that we've got our 2-inch natural stone cap installed around the perimeter, and then that is about a 1/4 of an inch taller or higher than our small pavers that are going to be going into the inside. These are actually a little bit shorter than the typical paver that you would see on a front walkway like this. These are 45 millimeter. These are 60 millimeter. These are for a concrete overlay, and these are for patios and walkways, pedestrian traffic. So for this overlay, what we've done is we've put in some non-woven geotextile to allow for any water that's going to be going through and sloping away. What we're going to be doing is putting in some concrete sand into here to raise these to the height, the elevation of our natural stone coping around. It's also going to act as a drainage layer, so any water that gets into the system is going to go down and out. We've already confirmed that our concrete has a pitch away from the foundation, so no water is going to be draining towards the house. It's all going to be going away from the house, and these have been glued in place with lines perpendicular so that any water is going to actually exit from there as well. When properly completed, concrete overlays are a cost-effective way to renovate a space for your clients and to add a lot of value to the property. Instead of having to hammer out the concrete to dispose of it and redo the base, concrete that is in good condition can be overlaid with pavers or other natural stone material. When starting any overlay project, we need to make a judgment call on whether or not the concrete slab is structurally sound. This means ensuring that there is a proper slope away from our foundation to allow water that enters the system to move away from the house. Any imperfections, cracks, separations of plus or minus 3/8 of an inch over 10 feet in the concrete slab may mean that that slab is likely to move and the base of the concrete slab was not prepared properly. Overlaying concrete that is questionable will come back to bite you. However, there are products on the market that allow you to address any inconsistencies in the concrete slab, like crack repairs. Still, if you choose to overlay that concrete slab, that work is on you. We like to ask our potential clients questions like how long the concrete has been there and whether they have had issues with it before we start to inspect it. On this porch, the previous owner had some mortar remaining from a structure that was built on top of it, so we quickly grinded that down and chiseled off the parging where we would be veneering some natural stone. Any other epoxy stains or grease along the outside portion where the pavers or caps will be glued to it should be grinded or cleaned to ensure proper adhesion. We like to use a 2-inch natural stone cap around the exterior of our overlays because we like the finish that it provides, especially in high traffic areas like steps where the surface can become worn down over time. The good thing about natural stone is that it is the same all the way through. It also provides us with a 1/4 inch difference in height between the pavers being laid in the field of this overlay, allowing us to line the area with a non-woven geotextile and a 1/4 inch of concrete sand. Having the same height cap as the pavers would cause us to have to use just a very light dusting of fine masonry sand in order to create separation between the pavers and the concrete slab. We use a polyurethane adhesive to glue the caps using perpendicular lines to allow any water to run right under the caps and out. If you ran parallel lines, water would be trapped under the caps, causing issues during freeze-thaw cycles and the retention of moisture under the entire overlay system. When adhering these caps, we make sure each piece is in line with one another, level but with a slight pitch towards the drainage area for water to run directly off the caps. The pavers should never be laid directly on the concrete, as this will trap water that enters the system between the paver and the concrete, which will cause issues during freeze-thaw cycles, as well as the retained moisture causing efflorescence issues, which is a mineral deposit in the concrete that shows in the surface of the stone as a white residue. The non-woven geotextile will act as a bridge containing the sand in the overlay system while still allowing for the drainage of water, especially in concrete slabs that have control joints cut into it or any cracks that present themselves in the future. It should be overlapped 12 inches at the seams. In the case of this concrete porch overlay, the fabric wraps up the sides of the caps to prevent the washout of concrete sand. ICPI calls for holes to be drilled through the slab along these expansion joints to allow for the free flow of water through the system and into the base material and out to the drainage area. In the case of this front porch, where it is covered in polymeric sand suited for overlay applications, allowing just 1% of water to flow through it, not to mention that holes should never be drilled through a concrete front porch, we are not following this step. Weeping holes in the masonry around the house should be addressed as well. These should never be blocked by the paving stones or polymeric sand, and an expansion cord or other material should be laid between the pavers and the stones to allow for the airflow behind the masonry. Failure to do so will cause moisture problems for the homeowner in the future. When screeding the concrete sand on top of the geotextile, we want to match the slope of the concrete slab from our starting point to our ending point. At the caps, we want to have the pavers be approximately 1/8 of an inch higher than the caps to ensure the water runs off the caps properly. We also want to factor in the final compaction of the pavers after installing the polymeric sand. This will be minimal considering the 1/4 inch screed layer, but still needs to be taken into account. Using the horizontal lines on our level and knowing the height of our pavers, we're able to easily screed this small front porch by eyeballing it. We can then lay our pavers to complete this porch overlay. You'll notice that the black pieces we are mixing in here are slightly lower than the gray. This is because those do not come in the same heights, so we had to cut those roughly and raise them afterwards with additional concrete sand underneath. When installing the polymeric sand for your concrete porch overlay, you'll want to ensure that you are using a polymeric sand that is specified for overlays. The sand gets swept around the pavers, much like any other polymeric sand install, and a rubber mallet is used rather than a plate compactor with a pad or a roller compactor to consolidate the sand to the bottom of the joint. We then top up the sand and do one final pass to consolidate the sand and ensure the sand is 1/8 of an inch below the top of the paver or bottom of the chamfer. We can then activate the sand according to the manufacturer's specifications. You will find in concrete overlays where the stone is laid directly on top of the concrete with no separation, polymeric sand will fail to cure as it requires drainage below it as well. The sides of your porch can be veneered with some more natural stone and the concrete porch overlay is complete. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to the channel for